You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Hey, everybody. So as you know, we are on vacation right now, but I found this episode from way back from August 2020 from our Patreon vault and thought it would be a good one to go ahead and run for y'all while we are out. This comes, like I said, August 2020. We were all deep into our COVID hobbies. And the hobby I took on in August 2020 was Zodiac, the astrology, stars. So we decided to look at the charts of some historical couples and see how they look. We hope you enjoy, and if you're new here, this show contains strong language. Cheers, bitches! Hi, this is Katie.
And this is Nathan.
And you're listening to Queen's Podcast, the show about badass women in history. Hey, Nathan.
Hey, Katie.
How are you, my love?
Fan-fucking-tastic.
Oh, that's exactly what I like to hear. That is
Amazing.
The exact level of fantastic. Oh, my goodness.
What are you drinking?
I am drinking Walgreens wine. It is called... So it's like, you know those little cartons of wine where it's only 3 glasses?
Oh.
I love these because I feel like 3 glasses on a Sunday night is perfect wine down.
Okay.
Because like
wine down.
Wine down.
I see what you did there.
That is what I'm drinking. And for our friends who aren't from the United States, Walgreens is a pharmacy that also sells wine and snacks and such. What are you drinking?
No alcohol for me tonight. I'm literally drinking diet green tea.
Hey.
Because I will be sipping the tea and spilling the tea.
Ooh, spilling the tea.
In this next episode.
I love it. During these uncertain times, actually, every time someone says these uncertain times, I want to punch them in the face. But I feel like a lot of people have gotten into hobbies because they can't leave their house. One of my hobbies that I've really dived into is astrology and such. Mm. So I thought it would be fun just to take a handful of kings and queens that we've covered and talk about their astrology compatibility.
Okay, that sounds fun.
Right? I couldn't do that many because a lot of women that we talk about don't have reliable birthdays.
Yeah. We just know the year-ish, maybe. Yeah. If we're lucky, we know the year. But I forget who it was, but one of the queens was like, she could have been born in 1292 or 1305.
Yeah, well, that's Anne Boleyn. People argue if she was born in, I think it's like 1500 or 1506 or something like that.
They're like way off.
Yeah, it's like, because, why would we ever need to know a woman's birthday? When will that matter?
Dicks.
You're a dick. So let's dive into it. All right. First, we're going to start off with a bit of a dumpster fire of a relationship.
By the way, I like the name of this episode. It's called
I saw the sign
and it opened up
eyes. I saw the sign. Nathan, you're a Gemini, right?
Yes, I am a Gemini and pretty much to a T.
Yeah, you're not on the cusp or anything, right? You're a Gemini's Gemini.
I'm close to the cusp, but I am Gemini through and through.
I'm a Gemini rising.
Oh.
Right?
I mean, that would make sense, though.
And then my moon sign is Sagittarius, but I don't really know what a moon sign means.
The moon, here's my app. The moon rules your emotions, moods, and feelings.
Okay.
This is likely the sign you most think of yourself as, since it reflects your personality when you're alone or deeply comfortable. Moon in Taurus, or mine is Taurus's moon, but your moon is like your emotional state.
Okay.
Think of the moon as being like full and it's pretty. You're like, oh, I feel so romantic and That's kind of how you think of your moon sign. So I'm Taurus. So that means that I'm very romantic and sentimental, deeply loyal to people. And I always feel like I'm powerless to fix anything, but somehow whenever there's a bad situation, I'm the one that everybody goes to because I'm super practical.
Yeah, Tauruses are very practical. Yeah,
I can tell you step by step how to get out of that situation.
Which we'll get to. We got some Tauruses in this story. Well, I definitely identify with Pisces, which is my sun sign, because Pisces are super sensitive. And like, if you look at me the wrong way, I will cry. Like, not even joking. Pisces are also supposed to be really empathetic, and I definitely feel that jives with me. I feel like I'm a pretty empathetic person. Let's get started with our first I saw the sign couple, which is Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon.
Everybody knows him.
Yes. Henry VIII's birthday is June 28th, making him a Cancer. And Catherine of Aragon is December 16th, making her a Sagittarius.
Yay! For me, a Sagittarius would be a perfect match for a Gemini. So Catherine as a Sagittarius, according to astrology.com, Sagittarius is in love and need of adventure and independence. So that's why she was probably so happy in the beginning of their relationship when Henry would, go off to war, leave her behind to like command her own troops.
Yeah, she got to be a boss bitch. And
that she thrived in that.
Henry is a Cancer. In relationships, Cancers really want to like just be in love, like Romeo and Juliet style love, which I also think jives really well with Henry. He was really a serial monogamist who felt like it had to be all or nothing in love. That goes with Cancer pretty well. Mm-hmm. So the elements of these signs. Are you familiar with like the zodiac elements, Nathan?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Earth, wind, fire, and water.
Ooh. So
think Captain Planet minus the heart.
Captain Planet, he's a hero. Gonna bring pollution down to zero. Brought to you by the 90s. The elements. If you're not familiar with the elements, they're, like we just said, water, earth, fire, and air. People of the same element usually have common traits. If any of you guys listen to Trashy Divorces, they did this whole thing on like the different elements on their Patreon. So check that out. Cancer is a water and Sagittarius is fire. These are opposites. In case you didn't know how fire and water work. One of these things is not like the other.
Yeah. So on paper, this pairing in love or business, they really don't make too much sense together because they're fucking opposites. Yes. Cancer is ruled by emotion and Sagittarius is ruled by philosophy and reasoning. So the exact opposite.
Yes. Like I said, I read one thing that it just really resonated with this from a website called elitedaily.com. And it said, fire and water together can be passionate, but often leads to an extinguished fire. Which, honestly, with this couple, foreshadowing, it makes sense.
Yep. So in love, it seems like these two give each other the time to grow and learn from each other's habits. And it could really be a love match. Remember, it does seem like Catherine and Henry really were in love with each other for a long time.
Yeah. So they were given a long time to get to know each other before romance even came into the picture, because everything I read about this pairing is if they take the time, if they really put the time in, it's the only way this is going to work. And it's they were basically raised together. So they put the time in.
Yeah, they didn't have a choice. Wow.
Cancers have a tendency to be really enthusiastic about tradition. That's really important to them. Henry had this idea that he was saving a damsel in distress, building the tradition of his dynasty and becoming this whole bigger thing, marrying into a powerful family. So I think that gels here too.
Yeah.
And Sagittariuses are really drawn to confident, outgoing personalities. And Henry VIII was certainly said to be a really commanding personality when he entered the room. So that was probably really attractive to Catherine as well.
Yeah, I think that would be attractive to a lot of people. Yeah. But in partnerships, remember, royal relationships were more of a political partnership than mostly we're in love.
Yeah,
really,
exactly.
We've gone over this time and time again where it's it's very rare to have a king and queen who are actually in fucking love with each other.
And if they were, it was just a happy accident.
So let's see how they would be running a business together, let's say. Sagittarius, in theory, would get really annoyed with Cancer coming up with all these lofty ideas and then not following through with them.
Right.
And Cancer might get intimidated. However, not really sure if this applies to Catherine or Henry's dynamic. In the early years, it seemed like they both were pretty enthusiastic partners.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that necessarily fits, but also back then, a power dynamic with these kind of couples were different. I think that they made a good partnership for a long time.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. That divorce, though. Talk about an extinguished fire. Oh.
Yeah, boosh.
If the Sagittarius traits are to be believed, perhaps Catherine was trying to hide those demanding traits to make herself seem more of like the traditional Tudor queen. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Though I would say Henry's pretty classic Cancer when it came to the divorce. Like he had the whole like guys to hide behind. No, but the Bible says. But really, it was emotionally led. He was led by his emotions there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Don't you think? Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it wasn't a diplomatic matter. I mean, I guess on a little bit, but
no, not the way that he was running it.
We know what you're up to, Henry.
Can smell a rat from a mile away.
Right. But the way that Catherine just like refused to be like put aside, that I feel was very Sagittarius.
Yeah, she needs a little bit of thrill in her life. She doesn't want to retire as a nun. She's like, I want to drink.
From queen to nun? You crazy?
I'm going to go drink some beer and sit in my fancy house and chill. No, I'm not being no fucking nun. And that's what she did, bitch.
Yeah. So compatibility based on their signs on paper should be like a C.
Yeah, I agree.
But do we think that their relationship and their personalities lined up with their signs?
I think it was a pretty good match. Honestly, yeah. I think they're a little spotty here and there, but for the most part, I think they were pretty dead on with these two.
Yes. Afterthoughts. I think Henry was a typical Cancer. He's very much driven by his emotions. Mm-hmm. Also, water signs have a tendency of being a little wishy-washy. As a water sign, I'm not even going to pretend that's not true. I read somewhere one time that like towards the end of his life, Henry, like whoever the last person to speak to him before he made like a decision on something was the way he was going to go. So that lines up with this pretty well of him not necessarily being able to figure it out for himself.
Yeah.
And also the fact that he always needed to be just an all-encompassing love makes me think he's a pretty typical Cancer.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And Catherine as a Sagittarius, this is where it kind of gets a little spotty, but she was never really given an opportunity to show her real personality.
Yeah.
Like, she did shine when she was given responsibility, so that shows that she's good at, big challenges, which really is a total Sagittarius vibe.
Yes.
And she does seem to be quite calculated like a Sagittarius would be. But one thing that we kept reading is that Sagittarius can be pretty reckless when they're bored. And I don't think Catherine of Aragon ever did one fucking reckless thing in her life.
No, not at all.
She was Catholic AF and she was calculated. She knew what she was doing. Even when she contested the divorce and had her big fucking mic drop moment, in that divorce hearing, it was calculated and she knew exactly what she was going to say, exactly what she was going to do. It was not just some willy-nilly, reckless, emotional, speech that she gave. It was very well thought out.
Absolutely. Final thoughts. While on paper, their relationship shouldn't have been a success, it was for a really long time. And I think the fact that they were raised together really helped them gel as a couple.
Yeah.
But in the end, it was a watered down fire.
So our next couple is going to be Diane de Poitiers, who was born on January 9th. So that makes her Capricorn. And Henri II of France, March 30th. So that is in Aries, ladies and gentlemen.
Have you ever dated either of these signs, Capricorn or Aries?
What's really funny is I've dated 2 Pisces.
No, that does not surprise me.
And 2 Sagittariuses. So
really?
I do really well with Sagittarius.
I did date a Capricorn in college. And when I was studying Capricorn for this, I kept thinking how oh my God, he was such the typical Capricorn. So let's dive in.
So this one will be a titch bit different because they weren't technically married.
Yeah.
But they were together for fucking years and years.
Years and years. Plus, it's just fun that we know a royal mistress's birthday.
Yeah,
they're even less likely for us to know their birthday since they're not princesses or whatever.
Yeah. Diane de Poitiers, like we said, is a Capricorn. And Capricorns are realistic, down to earth, practical, and a little hard-headed.
Yeah.
Because isn't it a goat-fish thing?
Capricorn is just a goat. I don't think there's a fish involved.
What is it? What is the
Capricorn's a goat.
Earth.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of those goats that live underwater.
Yeah,
They also have a tendency to be vain, which when I read that, I was like, oh my God, I feel like that describes Diane de Poitiers really well, because I feel like she was a really smart, hard-headed, practical lady, but she drank gold. So she drank gold to keep herself beautiful.
I just looked up the photo of a Capricorn, and Wikipedia has it as a goat with a fishtail.
Oh, it's a mergoat.
Oh,
it's a mergoat.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
it is.
I don't understand what that is.
I don't either, but it has a tail. Okay. Anyway,
Henri, or Henri, since he's in France. He's an Aries. A lot of people believe that in the astrology, in the zodiac, there are 12 signs and all of us live 12 lives. And whatever sign you're on in like order is like where you are on your journey of lives. So Aries is the first sign. So that means he's a baby. He's a baby in the zodiac. They're the young souls, so they generally are trusting and optimistic and with a really good energy. And I don't know if I ever got that vibe from Henri when we were researching him, but maybe it's because I was just always looking at that he treated Catherine de Medici so crappy.
Yeah.
Crappily, if we may.
Crappily.
But when I was thinking of it in this pairing with him being the baby of the zodiac, I was like, well, then that makes sense that he went for such an older woman as his mistress for like most of his adult life. Because maybe he wanted to be mothered, wanted somebody to take care of him, which I think is also a trait for Aries. So,
I like that historical conclusion is. Okay, so what are their elements? Capricorn is earth and Aries is fire. So once again, here we have earth and fire opposing elements. Yeah. Typically in astrology, what you would want is an air sign with a fire sign, a water sign with an earth sign.
Yeah.
Those are your pairings that you would want. So earth and fire, not good. Fire elements are super passionate and fiery, and earth signs are a little more cautious and down to earth. However, with the right pairing, a fire sign can actually inspire an earth sign to be a little more adventurous, step out a little bit more, as long as the fire sign makes sure not to burn the earth sign out.
See what you did there? So in love, again, on paper, this is not like a great match. Everything I read said they would just like drive each other crazy and have a hard time seeing eye to eye. Both have a tendency to be like, okay, when I'm right, I'm right. Mm-hmm. And by that, I mean like Capricorns are going to take a long time making their decision. And by the time they get to their decision, they're going to be like, well, I've weighed all the options. Nothing else could possibly be right.
Yeah. And Aries is kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to do it.
Aries is going to be like, I've made this decision based completely on my emotions and my gut and how I feel in the moment. And they're not going to change their mind either because they're convinced that their gut is always right. I feel like these two would drive each other crazy if they came to opposing decisions. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So as a partners, since this couple like never really ruled together, it's a little bit different than all the other ones. Yeah. We can go, when Diane would basically make Henri go to sleep with his wife, Catherine de Medici, it shows, how practical she is. She's
so that was a little bit like a business arrangement, being like, I know you want to be with me, but you have to have heirs with your wife,
So go sleep with your wife. Yeah. So while this pairing doesn't traditionally make a good partnership, I think for them it did.
Yeah. Okay, are they like their signs? Honestly, like I said, I don't really see Henri as an Aries, but again, I feel like I haven't done enough research on him as a standalone figure, though I would be interested to see what his rising sign was. I do think Diane is the typical Capricorn with her, like down to earth and realistic view on life, which is not like super emotional. Mm-hmm. And because I am Pisces they are known to be super emotional. And I could never have a partner that I'm like, yeah, go fuck somebody else. LOL. See you afterwards, you know?
You would go crazy.
Oh my God. For all the money in the world, I couldn't be in a relationship like that. I would absolutely go mad. Also, Capricorns are supposed to be really athletic. And she was like a really talented horse rider most of her life. So,
well, there you go.
Yeah. I don't know what sign is associated with drinking gold.
The bougie sign.
The bougie sign. So must be Capricorn.
So compatibility based on their signs alone, I'd give it a D-, but they were together for like years and years.
I know. I think the fact that they never lived together as husband and wife probably helped their relationship.
Agreed.
You know, they had a really, really long relationship, but they never had to deal with the mundane parts of a relationship. Like who's gonna take care of the children? Who's gonna do the dishes? They never, you know, so I think the fact that they didn't have the stress of a regular partnership really helped this pairing go together.
I wish we're doing this on Zoom. I wish you could have seen Katie's rave hands that she
rave
had
hands. All right. So who do we have up next, Nathan?
Alexandra Feodorovna and Tsar Nicholas.
So Alexandra's birthday is June 6th. Tsar Nicholas is May 18th.
Alexandra is a Gemini, like your boy Nathan.
Like your boy. And Nicholas is a Taurus. So Alexandra, being a Gemini, like we've said, it's harder to pin down Gemini's like generic traits, like what their regular traits are, because they're so changeable. Geminis are the twins. So it's a bit, they could wake up being one twin the one day and being the other twin the other day, you know?
Yeah. And so one twin is supposed to represent the outgoing person that wants to be the center of attention and is the social butterfly, cracking jokes, being funny left and right. And then you've got the other twin
that doesn't want to answer their texts for 2 weeks.
Exactly. Who is like, ugh, I'm so over the world. I just want to lay in bed.
It's just so funny because you are such a typical Gemini. Because sometimes we'll go to a party together and Nathan is Mr. Center of Attention, doing monologues. And then there's some days where you're just like, I cannot. So please do not talk to me.
But it's supposedly, and this is very true, is that with Geminis, that second twin who's a little more reserved and doesn't want to be the center of attention, that's the romantic side of the Gemini. Oh. That's the side of the Gemini that wants to go home and cuddle and watch movies and not go out and socialize. We're definitely those people that need to, quote unquote, recharge our social battery. Yeah. You know, we need some time off. And then once we're on, we're on. Okay. But every now and then it's like, I got to recharge, girl.
Yeah. So as a Gemini, have you ever dated a Taurus?
No.
And they do make very, very good boyfriends if you don't mind them being the center of your life.
Oh.
Yeah. So back to Alexandra. They sometimes come off as, you know, a little wishy-washy, like we just said. This seems a lot like her personality. You know, she seemed to be a little bit back and forth a lot in her life. And Gemini have a tendency to not want to settle down until like years and years into a relationship.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So Nicholas as a Taurus is very stubborn and very ambitious. But once they're in love, like Katie said, they are like deeply romantically in love and have a tendency to like just fall head over heels for people, and pretty quickly too. Once you're in their inner circle or like their little clique, they are fiercely loyal to you.
Yes.
But it is worth noting that Nicholas is a Taurus Gemini cusp, which honestly makes this pairing make much more sense, because everything we read said that this couple would have problems because Taurus is like too grounded and Gemini is so flighty. But since he's on a cusp, he takes on some of the traits of a Gemini as well. So it makes him a little more changeable.
Before diving in, this tracks for this couple. Remember, they fell in love like the day they met, and like hard. Like they met at a wedding of their cousins, and like the next day we're like, well, this is it. I'm done looking. But remember, once Nicholas finally proposed to Alexandra, she said no because she didn't want to change her religion, something that she had never brought up after like 2 or 3 years of courtship. So that I can just see the Gemini in that so much, because it's like just going back and forth in your mind over something, or maybe just really wanting attention for a minute. And also the long courtship for a royal couple who was choosing to marry for love. That's a really long courtship, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But also very typical of Taurus, of knowing right away, like, no, this is the person I've chosen, and I'm ride or die, you know?
Mm-hmm. So Taurus is an earth sign. Gemini is an air sign. Air signs are hard to pin down. Don't try to, because it's useless. Trust me. And the earth is very, very, very much pinned down. It ain't going nowhere, bitch.
Yeah, they're down to earth.
Earth signs are very much about physical touch and like that physical connection to their bodies and that physical world. Mm-hmm. Whereas air signs are more about the mind than the body, and
the metaphysical, maybe.
To turn me on, you have intelligent conversations.
Yeah.
You don't touch me. You just touch
my
mind. Touch my mind.
Which makes sense for Alexandra, because she went really into like that spiritual metaphysical world with the whole Rasputin thing.
Making sense.
Touch my mind. Come on.
Touch my mind, Rasputin.
Touch my mind, Rasputin.
But I wonder, like, Alexandra did like her jewels and shit. Like,
yeah,
she did like material things.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, though, if that's more of her upbringing of being a royal than it really is of her, like, astrological sign.
Well, because she was raised by Queen Victoria very much as an influence. So it's possible that that's, nature versus nurture, or no, nurture versus nature.
Yes.
Because it was like driven into like her from childhood that like, we are a different class of people. We are better than everybody else.
Yeah.
So maybe she would have been different. Well, obviously she would have been different if she hadn't been royal, but maybe she wouldn't have seemed so materialistic. That's just a guess. I don't know.
Yeah. And also she was very shut off from the public, which is not a Gemini trait. We're kind of outgoing a lot.
Yeah.
But again, this could be a product of the times that she was in.
Yeah.
Also having a sickly child that she's constantly worried about. There's a lot of things that are happening again with that nurture side.
And she came off very cold, which I could see how when a Gemini is in their quiet twin that just wants to go home and cuddle with their husband that they love so much, I could see how the public might be like, oh, she's cold and doesn't want to like hang out with the general people. But also, I mean, she was in like a really strange country, Yeah. So anyway, we could talk about the inner workings of Alexandra's psychology for days. There's a lot to unpack there. So in love, how is this couple in love? So one website I visited gave this pairing a 5% success rate.
Wow.
But we know that Alexandra and Nicholas did love each other deeply.
And he also wasn't 100% Taurus either.
Yeah, he was a cusp baby. Tauruses can be very possessive, like I said. Which usually I don't think a Gemini would like, but like we've already discussed, Gemini can be kind of a crapshoot. So maybe Alexandra was like a little bit into that and was just, I don't know, maybe she didn't mind if he was a little bit of a jealous guy, or maybe he wasn't a jealous guy because he had that we don't know a whole lot about like the inner workings of their relationship, However, Taurus is like the idea of stability, which I think most people, including Geminis, do crave deep down at some level. But from the websites that I read to research this couple, it said that they might have problems in the bedroom because Taurus isn't creative enough. And
Tauruses are more reserved, but obviously this couple, even though the Taurus is quote unquote, more stable and traditional, No. They had how many kids?
They had so many children.
We know that they like to get it on.
Well, but this might bring it back to Queen Victoria, though. There's a story about her telling her children, just to lie back and think of England when they were having sex with their husbands. So maybe she drilled it into Alexandra's head that, sex was not meant to be anything fun. I don't know.
Lies. Liza Minnelli. Lies.
Liza Minnelli. I love that.
Lies.
I'm going to use it. But yeah, they definitely at least had an active sex life.
So in partnership, like as a business partnership, these two were actually going to be a pretty good mix. They have different ways of thinking, different ways of approaching things. So when they work together, they can see pretty much every angle of the situation and make really informed decisions. So these two were really bad about reading the room in Russia.
Oh my God, they were. But so I don't think it's so much that they were a bad partnership, just that both of them were very bad leaders.
So are they like their sign? I kind of think so. You know,
I think Nicholas is a typical Taurus.
He fell in love hard, fast. It lasts. You know, he was loyal to her for like the rest of their lives, no matter what they did. Though he wasn't as hard-headed and driven as Tauruses usually are, we can probably attribute that to him being on the cusp at that point, as well as like their sex life.
Yeah.
Probably. No.
And Alexandra's a little bit hard to pin down, which makes her a typical Gemini. So their actual pairing, even though these signs aren't meant to be super compatible, they really, really loved each other.
Yeah. While this match would typically get like a D, their romantic life was like an A average, maybe an A plus.
Yeah. And like they lived happily ever after. Don't Google it.
Oh my God, I love it.
All right, who do we got next, Nathan?
Isabella of Castile, who is born on April 22nd. So again,
another Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
And Ferdinand, who was born March 10th, a Pisces.
Take it away, Katie, because you said you dated a Taurus, and you are a Pisces.
I am a Pisces, and I dated a Taurus, but I don't think me and Ferdinand have that much in common.
Right.
Maybe it's because, as you know, I just did this. I just spent a couple of weeks researching Ferdinand for this series called This Fucking Guy. And it was all about the negative things about Ferdinand. So when I saw that our birthdays are within 2 days of each other, I was just like, nope. So I will admit I'm biased into not gonna be Ferdinand's biggest fan. So we don't have anything in common. Nope. So Taurus and Pisces traditionally, both of these signs both of their birthdays put them in the middle of their signs. So they're not cusps. Like Isabella should be hard and fast Taurus, and Ferdinand should be hard and fast Pisces. Yeah, like I said, Ferdinand's birthday is the 10th of March. Mine is the 12th of March. So we should be a lot of alike, but I don't know. He's got something fucked up in his rising sign or something.
It's true. So Isabella is the typical fucking Taurus. We've all researched her. She's hard-headed as fuck, unchanging, practical, ambitious. So it pretty much describes her personality to a T.
Yes. Hard-headed, like with an axe to grind, the Reconquista. Hello. And xenophobia, which is not part of the sign. Just
a really bad trait in general.
I was going to say, yeah, just a bad trait.
So Ferdinand as a Pisces is usually a little overly emotional, a little needy, really creative and generous. And I don't know. Maybe it's just because, you know, we've been talking about Ferdinand and he's really not a very great character. Don't really see him as particularly needy at all.
Yeah. The only thing that I could think of with him being like needy and he may have been overly emotional, but like with the needy thing, remember when Isabella got crowned and anointed without Ferdinand being there and he threw a little shit fit?
Mm-hmm.
I get really upset when I get left out of things too. So, I get FOMO when my friends have a party and nobody invited me. I get really mad. So I think that's the only thing that I could be like, okay, maybe he's a little needy.
Yeah. So Taurus is an earth sign and Pisces is a water sign. So typically these two elements go really well together because the water goes into the earth and makes flowers and makes plants. And
that is the perfect analogy, Nathan.
And wind and fire, the wind fuels the fire. So that's why those signs get together. In the analogy, like I said, the water nurtures the earth. So, you know, the Pisces gives the emotion to the Taurus, who's very rigid and controlled. So they're basically almost like opposites in a way, and they kind of help each other out.
Yeah.
And Taurus really wants someone who isn't in it hardcore, and water sign Pisces is usually happy to oblige that.
They both really crave strong relationships.
Yes. And earth signs are really good for water sign because water signs tend to be a little too dreamy at times. So the earth brings it back down to reality.
Pisces and Taurus in love is typically a good match. And I do think these two loved each other. Ferdinand put his dick a lot of places it did not belong. But I don't think that meant he didn't love her, because after she died, even though he married a teenager really quickly afterwards, he did write a lot of letters about she was such a good wife. I'm going to miss talking to her. I'm going to miss seeing her. So it does seem like, even though it was a business partnership, it was also a love match, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And both Pisces and Taurus really crave security in a relationship, like strong family ties. I mean, for a royal family, them and their kids were so fucking tight, you know?
Oh, yeah. Very tight. Like, they were very close. In a partnership, Taurus and Pisces typically have a really successful working relationship. Pisces has like the big pie in the sky ideas, and Taurus is like, okay, this is what we need to do to make this feasible.
Yeah.
And so they're the ones that build the plan around to help achieve that. And I mean, I think we can easily say that even if they were a little problematic, these two 100% had a very successful partnership.
I agree.
Easily, hands down. I mean, they were the power couple of Europe, if not the world in the 15th century, if not longer. You know, they're a power couple even today.
Right? They're like the archetype for like a power couple, you know?
Mm-hmm. So based on their signs, what would you rate this relationship, Katie?
I've given an A on paper.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah. Now, do we think they were actually like their signs? Isabella? Yeah.
Totally. Super family oriented, super driven, hard headed, ambitious.
She is a Taurus 100.
Mm-hmm.
Ferdinand, I don't know. I feel like I never saw like that like emotional side of him. Like as someone who's a very emotional person, I could never lock up my daughter for no reason.
Yeah, that's a little deal breaker.
But I guess we just don't know the inner workings of his mind there. I don't know. Maybe with their relationship, it was like his idea to conquer things and then her inner workings to put that in place and stuff like that.
Oh, that makes sense.
Maybe I'm also projecting because I'm a Pisces and I just don't like Ferdinand. I don't know. But does their relationship line up with how these two signs should line up? I think so.
Yeah, no, they do. 100%.
They were, besides him putting his dick in the places it did not belong, they were a successful marriage, I would say.
Yeah.
Successful marriage, successful rulership, except for all the Jews being murdered.
Yeah, that whole thing. Problematic.
All right. So that was our Zodiac Roundup. Thanks for listening, guys. Yeah,
no Zodiac killers involved.
Oh.
Well, maybe Isabella was a...
oh, man. All right. Cheers, bitches.
Cheers.
Bye.